Global environmental effects caused by humankind. We continue to place a heavy burden on the Earth in our daily lives, sometimes unconsciously and at other times with full understanding. What should we do to pass on our shining blue planet to the next generation? The Blue Planet Prize. An international prize for the global environment, it recognizes activities for the realization of a sustainable society. It was established by the Asahi Glass Foundation in 1992, the year of the Earth Summit. Each year, the prize honors the achievements of 2 individuals or organizations that have made significant contributions toward the solution of global environmental issues. One of the 2 winners of the first Blue Planet Prize was Dr. Manabe Shukuro. The fact that almost 30 years later he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics is a testament to the foresight of the award. Since then, the Blue Planet Prize has selected giants of knowledge in a wide range of fields, from environmental studies, oceanography, meteorology and ecology, to economics and history. The former laureates have provided invaluable data and solutions to the world's common issues.
The population growth opens the problem of food production. How many people can be fed by the world?
And the most important issues we as humans face is that we now dominate the Earth. We dominate the Earth, we're changing the Earth.
So I think we all, our human species originate from a very close connection from nature, so somehow, we have this innate affinity with a number of natural phenomena.
And in October 2022, the Blue Planet Prize, marking the 30th anniversary of its establishment, was awarded to 2 more individuals. One of them is His Majesty Jigme Singye Wangchuck, the 4th King of Bhutan, who advocated a new national system based on a concept that considers protection of the natural environment and realization of a sustainable society as basic elements of happiness. His Majesty promoted many environmental improvements, leading to his people's well-being. Her Royal Highness Princess Sonan Detchan Wangchuck received the award in the name of His Majesty the 4th King of Bhutan.
His Majesty the 4th King of Bhutan shouldered great responsibility and steered Bhutan through a time of change and uncertainty into a golden age of peace, security and prosperity. His foresight led to Bhutan formulating environment-friendly policies and practices whose benefits we all enjoy and showcase to the world today.
The other winner is Professor Stephen Carpenter of the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the United States. For over 40 years, he has studied lake ecosystems and used mathematical models to elucidate the resilience of lakes.
With this Blue Planet Prize, I will continue my work to build resilience of nature and working landscapes, to improve the flow and quality of fresh water, both above ground and below ground, and engage science and the public in the search for transformations that support both life on Earth and human well-being.
To look into the future of the global environment, we will now review the careers and achievements of the 2 award winners. The Kingdom of Bhutan is a Buddhist country on the southern edge of the Himalayas. His Majesty Jigme Singye Wangchuck, the 4th King of Bhutan, had a great impact on the world by advocating the concept of gross national happiness which places the people's happiness as the foundation of nation building. Giving first priority to realizing the people's happiness, His Majesty continued to pursue policies that emphasized economic growth based on a good balance of development and environmental protection. His Majesty the Fourth King was born in November 1955. From around the age of 7, he began to study Buddhism, followed by modern education, and then went to India and London to study. His father, the third king, passed away suddenly in 1972. Ascending the throne in his teens, the fourth king became the youngest monarch in the world at that time. In the early 1970s, Bhutan's infrastructure was not well developed, and the people were living lives that were far from prosperous. Considering this reality, His Majesty the Fourth King sought a way to enable his people to live happily.
Vege labeodalu ka chesho di ngachera misesunu pentogobi. Geo gompetani gi sijudi lejim yasopdo jibowasen ni zomboling nalu ngachera gi pe namesame lejimchi tensunime. Tensumidi gachimosowasen misegi gompe ngomadi anijonime.
His Majesty the Fourth King was the first in the world to show that more important than gross national product, GNP, which expresses the size of a country's economy, was a new indicator centering on happiness called Gross National Happiness, GNH. One of the main promoters of GNH has been the president of the Center for Bhutan and GNH Studies, Dasho Karma Ura.
Other countries had industrialized and become rich, but have not paid great attention to other aspects of life, including happiness and well-being. So we have seen examples of cultures being eroded with extreme modernization. We want to continue both as a modern nation with the best modern technology, but we would like to blend that with our system and culture.
His Majesty the Fourth King believed that rather than achieving economic prosperity through the blind development of industry, preserving a lifestyle in harmony with culture and nature would lead to the people's happiness. The GNH concept is based on 4 pillars: sustainable socio-economic development, preservation and promotion of culture, environmental conservation, and good governance. The concept of sustainable socio-economic development is largely reflected in the country's infrastructure development. Public services, such as schools and hospitals, were fairly distributed in rural areas to avoid over-concentration in urban areas, and road and communication networks were improved. Sonam Choden, from the Kingdom of Bhutan, appreciates the country's infrastructure development based on GNH.
The government tries to build hospitals, not just concentrated in the capital city, but also like we have the referral hospitals within other Wangchucks as well. And of course, again, with our terrain, it's not always possible to access those, but we tried our best, and I think the government still works on it.
Every 4 years, the government conducts a survey to determine whether its policies based on the 4 pillars are leading to people's happiness. The survey's more than 70 items include questions regarding happiness, health, daily life, and state of mind, such as the time spent on meditation and sleeping.
We try to measure also compassion, joy, calmness, because calmness is an indicator whether you are in control of yourself also. So it's a very detailed domain, because one way we can check on individual well-being is whether you are devoting sufficient time to necessary things over 24 hours.
If the figures of happiness aggregated nationwide are low, the government analyses the causes and then considers improvement measures. Here is the painter Punsho Wandi's evaluation of GNH.
I can say that GNH is a philosophy. It's introduced by our great Fourth King. So for me, I think GNH as a holistic approach for the sustainable development, long term, and then very no up and down, sustainable. So our king have a far vision to think about future generation.
Among the four pillars, the Bhutanese government is concentrating on environmental conservation as a policy that will lead to people's happiness. Based on GNH, Bhutan's constitution stipulates that natural resources and environment are for the benefit of all present and future Bhutanese. And the government shall ensure a minimum of 60% of the country's total land area under forest cover for all time.
Forest is important for happiness. The people go for leisure to take walks through the forest. People take retreats, meditation in forest. So, and from the material point of view, forest played a huge beneficial role.
Tree planting programs are also implemented to restore deforested areas. Maintaining a rich, natural environment helps to create mental balance and leads to people's happiness. Strict forest management is an important measure to achieve this. Today, more than 70% of Bhutan's total land area is forested. Professor Emeritus of Kyoto University, Matsushita Kazuo, Japan's foremost authority on GNH research, describes the foresight of GNH, which aims for harmony between nature and society.
ブータンは実は人間の活動によって出す CO2 温室効果ガスの量よりもですね、森林などによって吸収される温室効果ガスの量が多いんですね。SDGs ですね、持続可能な発展目標が掲げられていると思いますが、GNH はまさにですね、原型になったわけです。
His Majesty the Fourth King abdicated in 2006 at the age of 51 and handed the throne to His Majesty the Fifth King. And in the new generation, GNH continues to be the foundation of the country as the national policy. The GNH concept handed down in Bhutan is now being adopted worldwide. One Japanese municipality conducts a survey with reference to GNH to help improve the life of its residents. The United Nations also releases the World Happiness Report, a survey of the level of happiness in member countries. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, has also published well-being indicators that measure material living conditions and quality of life. And there's a growing movement worldwide to use happiness as a social indicator like GNH.
I think people would like to know that future life quality and future good leadership will have to deal with promotion of high social relationship quality. Firstly, they have to promote. Secondly, they have to promote high sustainable environmental quality through these things. And third thing, they have to promote and will desire is a greater level of happiness and meaning in their life. Now, all these three things are related. So the citizenship will demand it and the leadership will have to provide.
GNH, a measure of national happiness, has brought a new perspective on life to today's global society, where economics and efficiency tend to be prioritized. Lake Mendota in Wisconsin in the United States. A scientist is sailing across the lake on a boat. He's Professor Stephen Carpenter. For over 40 years, he's been studying lake ecosystems.
This is called a Secchi disc, S-E-C-C-H-I, and it's a very simple tool. You lower it into the water and you measure the depth where it disappears, where you just can't see it, and that turns out to be a very reliable measure of water clarity. So let's try it. Here we go. Now, I don't know, you tell me when you lose sight of it.
Okay.
Down it goes, down it goes. I would call the Secchi depth right around there.
Where it just disappears?
Yeah, where it just disappears.
Okay.
So there, it's gone. Okay, so now we're going to measure.
Professor Carpenter surveys the lake to see how clear the water is. He has long studied the impact of the environment on ecosystems and elucidated mechanisms of lake pollution and resilience using mathematical models.
The lake essentially became iron deficient.
Stephen Carpenter was born in 1952 in Missouri in the central United States. He grew up in a rich natural environment with his teacher mother and scientist father.
He was a chemist and not an environmental scientist, but really interested in the environment. And he saw I was interested, and he really encouraged my interest in environmental science.
At university, he studied botany, oceanography, and limnology, and earned his PhD. Then at the University of Notre Dame Environmental Research Center, he began studying the effects of food relations among organisms, such as the food web on lake ecosystems. Since 1974, Lake Mendota has been one of the main experimental sites for his research on water quality improvement. The huge Lake Mendota, around 40 square kilometers in size, is surrounded by farmland that is 15 times larger than the lake.
After World War II, so about 1950 or so, the algae blooms got worse. In the 1950s, farmers began to use these commercially available fertilizers, which were cheap. The government made them cheap, and that added to the pollution of the lake.
The main cause of contamination of the lake was a large influx of phosphorus from the fertilizers used on surrounding farmland. Phosphorus is essential for bone development and is a necessary element for life. However, it's known that when large amounts of phosphorus are discharged into rivers and lakes, along with domestic and agricultural wastewater, the water becomes eutrophic and algae blooms occur. This degrades water quality and puts natural life forms in the river or lake at risk of dying. After continuing his research on Lake Mendota, in 1985, Professor Carpenter published a paper presenting a solution. It was a breakthrough idea that improved water quality by changing the food web in the lake. Up to then, eutrophication solutions had focused on stopping phosphorus from flowing from the surrounding farmland. But the professor turned his attention to the lake ecosystem.
Need a little more slack. We'll trade off, see who's the best fisherman here. All right. So here we go. We're going to see what we can catch. We're just going to go down here a few meters. What do you want to chug bottom? All right, here we go. Well, you can see there's a lot of material in there. And some of it is colonial phytoplankton. The green ones are the food for the zooplankton, small animals.
Eutrophication leads to excessive phytoplankton and other algae blooms, polluting the lake. With his belief that increasing the number of large fish in the lake could solve the pollution, the professor began experimenting with the help of the state and local fishermen's associations. This is how the system works. As eutrophication of the lake progresses, the algae blooms occur. Large fish are released into the lake. The large fish prey on the small fish, and the number of small fish decreases. Small fish eat zooplankton, so fewer small fish means more zooplankton. The increased number of zooplankton then feed on more phytoplankton. As a result, the phytoplankton decrease. Professor Carpenter believed that introducing large fish could reduce the growth of phytoplankton and improve water quality.
And we used 3 lakes at the University of Notre Dame Research Center, where I was stationed, to run the experiment. And honestly, to my surprise, it worked. It had a huge effect, a factor of 10 effect on the algae.
The professor and his colleagues have since conducted successful studies in more than 40 lakes in different environments.
You know, and at the time, you know, people said it was pretty crazy, but it was a very rigorously done experiment. And people said, oh, whoa, maybe this is real.
Conducting further research, the professor established mathematical models that can be applied to other lakes and rivers, including theoretical analysis of ecosystem stability and resilience. This has made significant contributions toward the improvement of the water quality of rivers and lakes. Professor Carpenter then expanded the scope of his research on the effects of phosphorus on the lake environment to the entire planet. The results are reflected in the planetary boundaries. Planetary boundaries are scientifically defined critical transition points, the limits within which humans can safely operate on the Earth. They consist of 9 items, and their indicators for maintaining the stability of the Earth, including climate change and loss of biodiversity.
I mean, the original idea of planetary boundaries was, hey, maybe we can define some critical transition points, you know, like in a lake. In a lake, there's a boundary point where if you add phosphorus beyond that boundary, you're going to get an algae bloom. And maybe there's something analogous to that for the planet. And so there were a couple of papers that came out that that were essentially just idea papers. They didn't really have the data to find any boundary, to define it quantitatively. We can just quantify this thing and then quantify the global cycle, and then we can get a limit from water quality.
In the planetary boundaries, a color change from green to red expresses the level of risk. The phosphorus and nitrogen items are red. This indicates that they have crossed the critical point and are already in an unstable state. However, Professor Carpenter, who has been observing nature from a broad perspective, believes that with the collective knowledge of scientists, these critical situations can be overcome.
I'm always hopeful about the future. I would say that we have great technology, and by deploying the technology we have now in intelligent ways, we could make things a lot better. And using our technology is a big part of problem solving. So the science and technology make me hopeful. I'll continue as long as I can. Yeah, I mean, I'm 70 years old, and we don't live forever, but I enjoy doing what I'm doing, and I plan to stay involved in science going forward.
Ever since the year that the Blue Planet Prize was established, the time on the Environmental Doomsday Clock has been announced annually by the Asahi Glass Foundation. Based on the Questionnaire on Environmental Problems and the Survival of Humankind, the sense of crisis that environment experts around the world feel about human survival is reflected by the hands of the clock. Midnight signifies the time when we can no longer live as we have up to now. For the year 2022, the clock showed 9:35. The sense of crisis has reached the extremely concerned zone. All it takes to turn back the hands of the clock is our own awareness and action. The Blue Planet Prize's message to raise environmental awareness and encourage action will be dispatched for years to come. This program was made possible by the Asahi Glass Foundation.